Hi, I'm Corey Walmsley, and today I'm interviewing Christina Tarantola about her book, Lighten Up, 7 Weeks to Release, Recharge, and Revitalize. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about the book, and then we'll get into the interview. So go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully my dog doesn't bark during this interview because I hear her whenever she hears dogs outside, she might start barking. So I apologize up front. Um, but so yeah, I'm really excited. I wanted to share more about my book today, and I really appreciate you reaching out to me to feature it on your blog. And so I'm really passionate about helping people around their health because I've been through my own health challenges. So I always like to start with my why. So I went through two different eating disorders when I was younger. So from 14 to 18, and then I started binging from 18 to 25. So I jump right into it because I feel that it's important for people to know a little bit about my history and why I am passionate and also qualified to share my experience and help other people reclaim their health. So all of my books are related to some aspect of healing or health. And it's really because of that journey that I went through of going through, those two different eating disorders, having constant anxiety and depression, and really finding that I wasn't able to express myself and really be seen in terms of, my business and in terms of, being authentic and attracting the clientele that I wanted to. So I find that I talk to a lot of busy professionals and they struggle with a lot of similar things, whether it's binge eating or self-doubt or all of these other limiting beliefs that get in the way from expressing yourself authentically and aligning yourself to where you are feeling good about yourself, you're feeling healthy and energized, so you can attract the people who need your services. So whether you sell jewelry or if you are an entrepreneur that it does business coaching or, writing coaching, whatever it is, I feel that it is important to take care of your health. And I always say that, your body is your vessel. So if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't fully be there for your clients or for your business. So a lot of people think like, oh, I have to kill myself in my business and my health takes the back burner, but it's really the opposite way. And so that's kind of the inspiration for this book, is looking at different ways that people can start to heal their body. So physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's the holistic view of how I help my clients. And so this is kind of a neat little way for people to get insight into what I do in my coaching. And it gives a great step-by-step approach to looking at all those aspects. So the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and really breaking it down to where it's manageable. It's something that you can apply to your life. So the 7 weeks is really focusing on different aspects. So 1 week it might be nutrition or intuitive eating. And then at the end of the week, you have, I call them focus assignments, but things that you can go back and kind of realize, okay, I learned these concepts, but how do I apply it to my life? Because it's great if we read a book, but if you're not really taking anything away, it can be, kind of counterproductive or not really making the most use of your time. So I do a lot of prescriptive nonfiction. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I would call it. And it really seems, people really seem to gravitate to and like that. So there's my long-winded answer to what my book is about. But
yeah. I love your topic, and I love that you're addressing everything holistically, but I also love how you have your book set up. So it is a pattern that people follow, and they have not just, this is what I did and this is the analysis, but also the steps to follow so that they can do it themselves.
Right.
So when I work with clients, like that's one of the things I stress is, you need to not just tell people, hey, this happened, but analyze it and tell them how they can apply it to their own lives. So I love that you did that. And something else I always like to talk about is, finding what sets your book apart from other books that might be similar to it. Because, a lot of people sit down and think, oh, I'm going to write a story, but, oh, my story is so much like everybody else's. So you have to find what is going to set your book apart. So what does your book offer readers that, makes it unique among other similar books?
Yeah. So I think that, number one, just being raw and authentic about what I've been through is something that allows the author to connect with the reader. So I think that's something that isn't always present there for people, but I find, and for me, I feel like it's very important to share that aspect, because as a coach, and it's funny, someone said this to me yesterday, they're like, you're so put together. And I'm like, yeah, but I struggle too. Like, we have to be real about the things that we go through. And I feel that when you have that connection with the audience, they're more receptive to hearing what you have to say. So that's the first thing. And then also coming at nutrition and how your relationship is with food from an aspect of like those four things I said: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Whereas most books will just look at, well, here's the nutrition, or here's like 10 tips to lose weight. You know, this is really, it's a customized approach to help you figure out, well, what's right for my body, what's right for my schedule and food preferences. So it's that everything is tailored to that person rather than having them fit to the program. The program is flexible to be able to fit them. So I think that's a really big thing. And yeah, you and I talked before about the intuitive eating, and with that, I really teach people to be more aware of their body. So we're often in our heads, right? We're stressed out. We're thinking about the next thing. You know, you have kids, you're thinking about like, all right, what do they need to do? What are their activities?
Yeah.
We are so disconnected. And I mean, everybody, a lot of people are disconnected from our bodies. So it's really getting out of your head into your body is important, because it's helping you become more aware of what your patterns are, why you might be overeating. Are you really even hungry? So that's a lot of what I teach is body awareness, feeling, maybe you've walked into your boss's office and you feel something in your stomach, like a pit in your stomach. Those are all signals. Your body sends you signals all the time. So finding out how to maybe breathe into that area and release that stress, or, you know, rather than just popping a pill, maybe you're dehydrated if you have a headache. So all of those things are tools that I use with people to help them not have to use medication, if, you know, within reason. I mean, medication is there for a purpose and some people do need it, but I really strive to help my clients and patients to minimize medication as much as possible and become aware of, well, why is that headache there? Or why is that stomach ache there? It's a signal that your body's telling you something's wrong. So
yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So why did you first, I know this is your third book, but why did you first decide to write this book?
That's a great question. So I was going through a lot of transition personally, and I had been working with someone else in a different company. And I loved the fact that with that company, they were giving a book. Like, if a client signed up, here's a book and here's all of our information, or most of the information. And of course you get the coach to help you guide through that information. So I was going through, like I said, my own kind of personal transformation at the time. And I was thinking to myself, well, how would I instruct someone to heal through some of the things that they're challenged with? And I kind of orchestrated the book to serve two purposes. So one, it's going to help people to reclaim their health, but also it's a way for clients to know what I do, or, you know, potential clients. So it kind of served two purposes for me, in order to help people, but also market and show, hey, this is what I do in a condensed format. So, okay. Yeah.
Excellent. And we had talked before about, you know, this is your third book and you've always loved to write. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your experience writing?
Oh yeah. So I always ask people, like, what did you love to do when you were 5 or 6 years old? Because usually that's when you're not tainted by the world. You're not worried about, oh, I need to be a lawyer, I need to be a doctor. You're just a pure soul with, you know, I believe that we come onto this earth with certain gifts. And so mine was always writing. I loved to write, and I lived in a very chaotic household. So I always just would go into my room and write and just journal. So I would hide my journal under my bed. And it kind of just was always a way for me to express myself. I'm a very talkative, expressive person. So I just knew, you know, all from probably the time I was 6 up until 18 that I loved to write. And then once I hit 18, I got this gut feeling that I was like, I'm meant to write a book, or I'm supposed to be writing a book. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just like a gut feeling. And I think as women, we know it's just like an intuitive feeling sometimes. Mm-hmm. And from 18 to 26, that's really when I had a lot of kind of emotional upsets and things happen along with my eating disorder that allowed me to create that first book of, again, a prescriptive nonfiction, with the first part being a lot of my journey and what I went through. And then the second part, giving people the tools on how they can apply that to their life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've always just been drawn to it as a way. I guess it's like a cathartic thing.
Yeah.
You can probably relate.
Oh yeah, a little bit. So I was wondering how your writing experience has changed from like when you wrote your first book to writing your third book.
So my first book, I actually went to Bali and I traveled with 30 other women, and I got the coaching on actually how to write a book. So I feel like that process was a lot, there was a lot of learning curves, and I didn't really know what I was doing at that point. And then with the second book and third, I just feel like I know the structure at least, and then I'm able to then piece together the chapter titles and then fill in the content. So it's just, I think it's gotten a lot easier just as I've done it more than one time. But actually for the next, whatever the next book is, or whenever that inspiration comes, I'm going to probably do like an independent, like medium-sized independent publisher, because my goal is actually to get into Barnes and Noble. And I know that with Create Space, it can be challenging to do that.
Right.
So that's kind of my aspiration for the next one. And I know it's going to take patience. So.
Yes. Yeah. I did want to explain, since you brought that up, when you use a self-publishing platform, the reason why like Barnes and Noble or other bookstores might not want to work with you is because they would have to purchase a certain number of books. Mm-hmm. And they can't sell them back. A lot of times, I know, like when I self-published, I marked whether I wanted them to be able to send the books back and get their money back. Sometimes you can work out something where you say, I know I'm going to sell 15 books and I would like to do an event. So they will purchase 15 books and you sell them. And, if you don't, then you end up eating whatever. But, there are certain bookstores that will work with you. You just have to come at them, with a different approach.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's good.
Yeah. It's difficult, but, if you know how to do it, then you can do it. But yeah, going with an independent publisher is an awesome idea too. There are always so many options for publishing, traditional independent publishers, self-publishing. And that's one of the things I love about writing today is, you pick what works for you and you go with it.
Yeah.
So I did want to ask too, if you worked with anybody. You mentioned about going to Bali for the first book. Did you work with any coaches or anybody on the third book?
Honestly, for my second book, I hired an editor and wasn't happy with how that turned out. So I actually got a group of 5 pharmacists to contribute to the appendix of the book. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just said to them, hey, I assigned people different chapters. I read over it, a bunch of times. And I found that was useful for me. Mm-hmm. At this point. So that worked out because I had people, helping me. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. So what was the most challenging part of the writing and publishing process for you?
It's really weird how books come to me, because I get like a word. Like my last one was about power, and then I just start to attract different books or it's very strange, or like different conversations. And then that's where the chapter titles come in. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much like actually sitting and doing it, because I am disciplined. I would say the biggest challenge is more for me is patience, because I'm just like, I want to get this thing out there. Mm-hmm. But with the next one, like I said, I think I want to do the longer route where I want to be able to get my book in Barnes and Noble. So I'm going to have to go with like an independent publisher. So I guess it would be probably the patience of not wanting to just stick it on Create Space and get it out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that could be challenging. So what did you enjoy most about the writing and publishing process?
I always really get energized in knowing, like, people are always like, well, how do you write a book? Like, how do you just sit down and write? And for me, I think about who am I impacting? And that usually gets me through, because there's days where you don't want to write, or there's days where things get in the way. Just like, people talk about, like, I don't have time to exercise or this or that. And you have to make the time, and you have to, if it's something you really want, and there's a strong enough why behind it. Like, I know that this book, I gave 60 copies of this book away the other day. Like, that's touching 60 people, plus if they lend it to someone else, you never know. So I feel like that is my biggest reason for writing is, I mean, of course it's for myself, but it's also to make an impact and to show people a different way of thinking that, our society doesn't think about, oh, well, maybe I should, like, think about why I have a headache instead of just shoving an Advil in my, in my mouth. So, yeah, that's really the biggest drive for me.
Yeah. I love that your why is a big driver for you. Whenever I work with clients, one of the first things I have them do is sit down and talk about who they want to impact and why, and like what they want people to get out of their book.
Yeah.
And for you to hold that all the way through the process is like exactly what I tell people to do. So I love that you said that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience with marketing your book. You said you gave copies away. What are some other methods you've used with marketing it?
So I've done the 2 book signings. I did one at my gym, actually, and that was really great. And I feel like this book, the other 2 books didn't have my face on it, so kind of having my face, people are holding the book whichever way, is really cool, because I find that people are going to be like, oh, well, who's this? Or, oh, this person. So it serves a couple different purposes, like just to market my own nutrition consulting business, but also for people to get the value of the book. So I feel that, I mean, I can always use tips on marketing because I want to reach as many people as possible, but I found that really speaking and being in person in front of people is the best way to market the book. And it's crazy how many opportunities have come up. I used to volunteer at Meals on Wheels, and this one of the men there said, oh, my wife wants you to come speak to her church group about your book. So just these random things keep coming up to where I have opportunities, luckily, to speak in front of audiences. And I find that at least gets people, like, I give them the value through speaking, and then I could say, hey, like, there's this product that I offer. So I find that it's a good way to just allow people to see who I am and get them to know, like, and trust. Like, that's, Business 101. So I think that's, yeah, I'm open to anything else you have. Any other ideas?
Well, marketing is not my expertise, so that's why I always ask people, how are you doing this? Because I do want to help my clients and, send them in the right direction. But I usually tell them about, speaking gigs or setting up a course where you can use the book as either, part of the course, or, sell it off of the course, make it like a prerequisite for the course, things like that.
Yeah. That's actually what I did. So I have a course now called Lighten Up for Summer. A lot of the content is from this book. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. You'll have to tell me a little bit about that.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to ask too, like, how you are distributing your books. I know you're using CreateSpace, so it's available on Amazon. How else are you distributing?
Out of my trunk.
I do the same thing.
Out of my trunk. I have a couple copies at Burn too, the boot camp place. I did go to Riverstone Books, which is new I don't know if you know, it's in McCandless.
Okay.
So I have it there, but it's mainly online. I got a lot of sales from online, or if I'm doing a speaking gig, then I'll just bring literally from my trunk and just old school.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to sell it. And then are you digital too? Do you have a digital copy?
Yeah. It's in the Kindle version as well.
Okay. Did you do that through CreateSpace, or did you do it through some other venue?
I did it just through Amazon Kindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you plan on writing more books?
Yes, I just don't know when. There's somebody, it's funny. I don't know if you know Weston Lyon. He wrote like 9 books in 11 in a year or something. And I'm like, I'm not on that level, but I know it's going to come. My next inspiration will come at some point, but I'm not going to be writing like another book anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's intense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't imagine 9 in a year. I used to do 1 a year and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So what would you tell someone who wants to start writing?
Well, you and I talked about this before. I think you need to get clear on, what your why is and the target audience that you want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would strongly suggest to hire a coach, especially if it's your first book, because it's very easy to get lost in your own head and say
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'll do it another day. And it's good to have like the accountability. And also you've helped so many people write books. So I would just suggest a coach, especially if it's your first book,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be able to help you not take shortcuts, but like guide you in a way that they know is going to be effective. So
Right.
give you a
Awesome.
little plug there too.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about as far as your writing experience? Maybe something I didn't bring up?
You know what else is pretty cool too? I would recommend for people to, like, I took a course with a New York Times best-selling author. I can't remember his name because it was probably 5 years ago, but if you can get some kind of just course, or I know you're offering courses too
Mhm.
on writing, whatever it is, if it's nonfiction or fiction, that's really helpful too, just to, it's like I always give analogies, like if you're just starting to go to the gym and you're trying to lift like 50-pound weights,
Mhm.
you have to start slowly, and then you can build up to where you have the tools and the writing ability to be able to write a book. That's just my opinion. I mean, you could just jump right off and start, but I think that it's good to also have a little background of like especially me, I'm a pharmacist. I don't have any writing training. So having
Right.
something like that is good, in just to kind of build your muscle, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree. Education is key on that.
Yeah. So you got all the bases covered, Corey.
Yeah, I do. Well, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you talking about your book and your inspiration and your experience. That's what I'm trying to do with the blog posts when I interview authors, and this is our first like live interview, so I'm excited about this one. Is to let people know like real people are writing books, and you know it's not always going to be perfect, but you can do it. And here's some advice, here's some tips. So thank you again for sharing with me about Lighten Up, 7 weeks to release, recharge, and revitalize. And again, you can get that on Amazon. I have an actual copy or a digital copy if you like your ebooks. So I want to make sure I plug that for you. And thank you for watching. And this is Christina Tarantola. She has some awesome stuff. Talk to her about health coaching if you're interested in that. So
Thank you so much, Corey, for having me on.
sure, thank you. All right, bye everyone.